Everybody, welcome to episode 13 of the Power Ranger podcast. I am your host, Dr. Pittman, and I got my co-host here from the Disney Brain, JWR,
Howdy.
and we got another co-host, also from the Disney Brain, it's Dragon Raider X9.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, yes, gentlemen. Woo. Let's have some topics here tonight. What we have? We will discuss episode 7 of season 2 of Dino Theory, which is called Serious Business. And we'll review the results of the Hasbro Q1 financial call. We'll explain how Netflix's current roles may affect Power Rangers. And then we'll preview a new comic book, Power Rangers Universe Episode 5, Issue 5, excuse me. Oh, yes. So, without further ado, let's get it underway. Let's discuss episode 7 of season 2 of Dino Theory called Serious Business. Now, JWR, what are your thoughts about this episode here?
I enjoy it. I mostly enjoy how we are following up on the subplot of Tarek going rogue and Santura basically defecting from Santura, as well as the Rangers still kind of questioning whether or not they can truly trust him. There's more that I want to go into, but I got to be careful because I don't want to risk spoiling or discussing anything in the next episode. Which I will likely have plenty of thoughts on when we get to it. But yeah, I liked it.
Well, Dragon Raider, your thoughts?
Well, I had a number of them this time. And first off, let me preface this by saying I still haven't caught up on Dino Fury, and I apologize to our audience, but around the time this happened, I started getting Amphibia, and that's kind of had my attention for a while.
Yeah, you've been getting you were telling us how you were kind of trying to catch up on Amphibia before the last couple of episodes air. I've seen some of his reactions with the I'll try to be vague for those of you who do watch Amphibia and aren't caught up yet, because yeah.
Stuff happens.
Yes, stuff happens. I'm curious, are you currently caught up on or trying to get caught up on the Owl House before season 2 wraps?
I am up to date on the Owl House.
Oh.
Been following that as it aired.
Oh man, because
let's get back on.
Right.
Let's get back on topic.
Right.
Dino Fury, serious business.
Yes. Power Rangers. That's right.
Void Knight is a traitor.
Hold on. Justin Ravi says, correction, serious business is season 2, episode 8 of Dino Fury. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh no. Oh no, I wasn't like doing that to correct you. I was just putting that like as a I guess kind of in like after the fact, or like clarification.
Okay, episode 8 of Dino Fury. I'm sorry, didn't mean. All right. I apologize, Justin Riley.
Oh no, man, you good. I'm not going like it's actually it's episode 8. No, I was just putting it out there so that anybody watching this wasn't like confused, or that's all. It's fine.
All right, go ahead, Dragon Raider.
First off, right off the bat, Void Knight was more or less the big main villain of the first season, up until this whole Void Queen situation had happened, who was his wife. And I gather getting his wife back was a higher goal. But now she's gone full revenge destruction thing, and he's gone traitor, and she seems fully down for just wiping him out. That's interesting. Have we seen something like that on Power Rangers before?
No. Well, not like that, no.
The closest I can think of would probably be Rescue with Diabolico and the Queen. But even that's a different kind of story.
Right, because like I never got the impression that Diabolico had any kind of affection for Banshir, and that he was only like he was basically just there to be her dark knight. Her he was just there to wait. He's just protect the queen, uphold the royal family name or whatever. And I like what happens here is kind of similar or comparable to what happens in Lightspeed Rescue, although I'd say it's a bit more a bit more, I guess, screwed up here because like we spent most of the first season setting up and like we spent most of the first season depicting Void Knight and seeing him as like somebody who was slavishly devoted and loyal to his wife, like to the point where he was basically willing to wipe out a good majority, if not most, of the population of Earth just to bring her back to life and keep her safe. And then you contrast that with Santora, who, oh wait, my lover, who like my husband is suddenly all of a sudden getting cold feet about our plans for taking over the universe. Now all of a sudden he's chickening out or saying we should go, and now he betrayed me on top of that. Okay, I want like, and then her response to that is basically sending another monster to kill him. Yeah.
Heck, honestly, just having a major villain, like, okay, I got what I wanted. We can leave now. That's new too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other things, I took some notes.
Oh, let's hear them.
Let's hear.
Well, first off, I do appreciate that Zato is still rather not exactly trusting Void Knight. It feels like a smart decision. And I also couldn't help but notice that this was kind of the inverse of what we had in Power Rangers in Space, where Andros found out that Astronema was his sister. She wanted to reform, and he was all up for that because, family. And the rest of the Rangers are like, I don't know that, for fair reasons.
Yeah.
I just thought that was neat.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice callback. Although I thought there have been a lot of callbacks to In Space this season. Well, you got. I mean, if Andros feels, Zato feels remarkably similar to Andros. You can tell they took. You can tell they probably took a little bit of inspiration from Zane when they were writing Ion and his relationship with Zato. Plus, you got the whole thing with Void Knight, basically echoing a lot of what we saw with Ecliptor and Villamax. Yeah, it's like to quote George Lucas, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
I like it. Feel like there are similarities, but it doesn't feel outright derivative.
Yes,
exactly. I mean, look, I love Power Rangers RPM, but it's also hard to ignore that the whole thing going on with the Black Ranger and the evil lady whose name I can't remember offhand.
Tanaya.
That's it, Tanaya. That felt like it was taking a lot of notes from Andros and Astronema.
Yeah. I mean, this series this franchise loves to visit that trope about the evil / brainwashed siblings. I mean, we already mentioned In Space, and Lost Galaxy to extent, but Lightspeed Rescue did it. I'm pretty sure we had something similar with Ninja Storm. Yeah, Power Rangers really loves to visit that. I guess that's kind of a recurring theme with this franchise. Siblings, specifically when these. Was that?
I mean, family.
Yeah, I was saying that.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I was trying to say, Power Rangers will always be for kids, but not exclusively so. It can still appeal to all ages, like In Space, SPD, RPM. Instead of constantly talking down to them like Samurai, Megaforce, and Ninja Shield.
Leads to a point that I kind of wanted to make, starting serious business, because It
Yeah.
kind of took me back to an episode of Megaforce.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way.
Oh.
Okay, so, and again, I do apologize for any of our listeners who like Megaforce. More power to you. I'm happy you enjoyed it more than I did. I'm
So
not.
are we. Of course. This is all subjective. We are.
This is also just. There's a lot of things about Megaforce that make it good. That make for good examples to talk about when comparing things. Do you remember the episode? I don't remember the title, but the episode with the comedian and Noah and Robo Knight. Like,
yeah, I remember that. I think I remember that.
Like, okay, they start by going to like an outdoor performance, and the people up on stage are just telling these stupid, corny jokes, and everyone's laughing but Noah. And then they kind of Noah to try and see the value in it. And then a monster shows up. No joke, that was his name. I remember that, but not the episode title. Go figure. But No Joke basically captures people by making them laugh. And so Noah, the only ranger left, has to team up with Robo Knight to put on a comedy performance because making No Joke laugh will undo the curse.
Trying to find the name of the episode now. I know it's. Let me just pull it up. Let me just pull it up because now it's gonna drive me crazy. It's gonna drive me crazy if I don't figure it out. Keep going with that. I'll catch it. I'll add it when I
So
found it.
I get to the part where I connect this to serious business. I do actually want to take a couple moments to talk about the few jokes from the episode I did genuinely like, because I feel I should throw people a bone every now and then. One, as stupid was, I giggled when Troy started breaking down laughing when the monster did a fart joke. I normally roll my eyes at that sort of humor, but it was funny because it was Troy.
And because, well, yeah, that, and the fact that, hey, he has emotion. He's able to emote and have facial expressions beyond just brooding and sulking.
Yeah, that's what did it.
Also, Last Laugh. That was the name of the episode. Last Laugh.
That's right. And also, basically everything they did with Robo Knight was on point, but that's just because Robo Knight's funny in general. I always loved him. He's not always trying to be funny, but he usually makes me laugh. But back to serious business and why I brought up Last Laugh in the first place. The contentious element that tends to come up when talking about Last Laugh is that, well, a lot of are incredibly juvenile, kind of basic, the kind of jokes two second graders would be telling each other, which is maybe kind of jarring when you're trying to get a bunch of high school teenagers laughing at this sort of thing. And it does come down to, on the one hand, it is a kids show, and that's the kind of jokes kids tell to each other. On the other hand, at what point does it become reasonable to have a little bit more effort? I don't know, but that's somewhat beside the point. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized that's not really the issue with the episode. The issue is with how it frames Noah. It frames Noah's not liking of these jokes to be a problem on his end, a problem that he has to overcome. And that's weird because humor is subjective. Like, perhaps more than anything else, humor is subjective.
Extremely subjective.
Make someone laugh at something they don't think is funny.
But also, humor can be universal.
Yes.
Oh, there's a conversation to have there, but we could probably say.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time.
As it relates to serious business, for those who didn't see it, the company BuzzBlast is trying to get their 10 millionth subscriber. They're putting on a big live show, but then someone in a clown mask hijacks it and starts telling really juvenile, dumb pun jokes. And everyone's kind of looking at it like, oh my gosh, this is garbage. Except for Ion, the Gold Ranger, who is legitimately enjoying this. And, for a second, at first I thought it was just, oh, we're just having a laugh at his expense because he thinks the bad jokes are funny. And, that's somewhat humorous. But they keep going with it, And Ion found her by accident, who's just this little kid who wants to make their big break but doesn't know how. And Ion genuinely enjoying this kid's material, I think really helped when he was trying to get her to be her better self. I don't think it would have worked as well if it had come from someone who thought she was bad at doing. And I just thought that was a wonderful writing choice. Or heck, just the fact that the people at BuzzBlast found that drone that what's his face was using. Void Knight. What's his face? I just like it when various elements of an episode tie in together, either not even necessarily in major ways, but minor ways. So they all feel like they're part of the same episode. I like it. I thought this episode was rather tightly written.
Right. Oh God, that's just funny. While you were talking about that, I just realized I think we got the synopses for episode 7 and episode 8 mixed up. So last episode was, I think, New Leaf was the one where we talked about how like the subplot with Ion and the little girl, but that it turns out that was the one where I think where the monster turned everybody into trees.
Wait, did you just talk about this episode last week?
I think we did. That's the thing.
Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't miss it.
No, I mean, it was a good episode, but I just realized we accidentally talked about the same episode twice, and it not that it really matters now, but now that I think about it, yeah, you touched on an interesting point when comparing how Megaforce handled a similar plot point and how Dino Fury handles the same plot point, and I guess continuing off that, there's also the fact that it works a lot better here because of the way the episode frames Ion. Like we've already kind of established him as I don't want to say he's certainly not the youngest, but the least mature of the Rangers, or of this set of Rangers. So it actually kind of makes sense that he would find these juvenile, childish jokes funny. And I also really like how he's I really like the way in which he like the way he talks to the girl in a way that doesn't come off as patronizing or holier than thou. It's a nice moment.
It was a good scene. That his acting wasn't the best in the world, but that's par for the course for Power Rangers. I'll let that go. They've been doing that since day one. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I guess I'll give my thoughts on this episode as well. All right. So serious business. I will agree with y'all. I did enjoy this episode. I thought we got more into Tariq and Centaura. It's fair. And I feel like, yes, it was a callback to In Space, which is so scary because it's cool yet scary because something tells me that Centaura is eventually going to become the main villain of that branch, main villain of this season, besides Void Knight.
I mean, her name is Void Queen, and queens do traditionally hold authority over knights. So,
yeah, made more sense. But I like how Void Queen's design. I thought it almost reminded me of Madonna from Ninja Steel. Yeah,
I 100% do not remember that character.
I don't actually. I think that might be because she's from a different. Void Queen, or the costume they're using for Void Queen was, I think her name. I'm forgetting the name of the character, but it was the villain in Tokuger.
Nope. That is an interesting choice.
Yes.
Interesting choice. Yes. But the design's not bad. It's not bad.
Oh no! The design. No, it's a great design.
If I may, just so viewers have context, in case they're not up on all the seasons and whatnot. Power Rangers is, as we know, adapted from seasons of Super Sentai, and
Yes.
Dino Fury is adapted from one I believe is called Ryu Soldier,
That's
Yes, Real
correct.
Soldier.
and Tokuger is a different Sentai entirely. It's about trains. So seeing
Yes.
a Tokuger villain suit in Dino Fury is
Is it the sig? Is this a single? Is this a signal that that might be the 30th anniversary
Oh
season?
no, no, oh no, oh, God, no. Quite the opposite. If anything, I
sorry.
think them. Oh, sorry. If anything, I think them using a villain design and costume from Tokuger. If anything, I think that kind of puts that kind of makes it even less likely that we'll see Power Rangers ever adapt Tokuger. And although I guess I shouldn't be smiling about to be clear, I'm not making fun of anybody who was hoping to see Tokuger get adapted into. So I mean, for those of you who were hoping that maybe we see Power Rangers touch on that Sentai, I'm sorry, you have my personal sympathies. I just so I'm not laughing at you. It's just that yeah, I think that's more or less a sign that we're not gonna get it. That
Yeah.
yeah, it's not impossible, but after this, I am less certain of them ever touching Tokuger than I was than I am less certain. No, let me rephrase that. After after this, I am now a lot more certain that the chances of us ever getting to Tokuger are slim to none. Not impossible, but slim to none.
Now, for me, what I immediately think of is that this might be a sign that the production staff is trying to get more creative with how they make use of what's available to them. That maybe they're not trying to just stick so strongly to what one season of Sentai gave them to work with, and they're willing to look for other possibilities to make interesting stories.
Which is encouraging.
That's it. I ended like I was going to keep talking, but I didn't have anything else to say. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's fine. It's
Uh,
fine.
uh, oh,
I'm probably way more guilty of that than you are. Like
all
I
right.
do that weird thing where it looks like
Um,
I'm gonna finish my thought, but then it just yeah, that's it.
so let me see. Let me finish this up. So back to what I was thinking about my thoughts of the show, of this
Oh, yeah.
episode. Oh, mm, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a nice callback to In Space, and love, I would love the relationship angle that's going. But we just knew that Centura was eventually going to be the end game villain for this season, and I'm definitely gonna be scared now because but with the opportunity to team up with Void Knight, well now Void King, this is a whole this is going to be a whole scary season in a
Well.
good.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Somebody in the background.
It's a
It's
bit too
cool. It's
early
cool.
to say exactly what's going to happen with Void Knight, but I can't see that being anything but interesting.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Like they have to work pretty hard to screw this up. I think.
Right now, I think we since we already talked since we kind of already accidentally talked about the same episode twice. I guess we could maybe not do not a whole other discussion on the actual episode New Leaf. Like, quick question, Dragon, have you seen the episode, the one where all these teacher or professor shows up?
I have not.
Okay, never mind. We
Sorry.
we no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just I was going to only briefly touch upon that in that it kind of ties in with what's been going on with the Void Knight. So in the episode, he basically has a line where he says, "I never met," where he's talking where he never meant to cause as much destruction or chaos as he did when he it's when he sees a little girl turned into stone by the monster of that episode. And I think now I guess at a glance that sounds a bit hypocritical given everything that he had done in the first season, but with the more you think about it, the more sense it actually makes, because yeah, he did a lot of heinous, a lot of his actions could be considered evil or heinous, but you could still make the point that he was doing what was necessary to bring his wife back.
In other words, he wasn't hurting people for the sake of hurting people. He just saw them as a necessary sacrifice.
Yes.
Which, isn't necessarily good, but there is nuance to talk about with his character.
Yes, which is always nice. Which is always nice to see. Like it's always nice when this show actually adds little bits of nuance here and there beyond just this person's good, this person's evil, and that's it.
Plus, it occurs to me that when you have a strong goal like trying to bring back your wife, it's really easy to ignore the other consequences of your actions. But when you don't have a goal to focus on and your wife is now trying to kill you, maybe it's a bit easier to see what you've been doing.
Right. Now that he has basically he got what he wanted, he did what he set out to do, and then he found out that then I guess he saw the consequences of his actions, starting with the reveal that his wife is starting with the fact that his wife is not the I guess holds more of a the event well beyond just seeing what how his actions are hurting other people, it started with the consequences of his actions, I guess, started with him foreseeing that Santora had either changed it while she was frozen or in stasis, or that she was not the person that he remembered her, and then starting from there, he then, it's kind of hard to word it, but you get where I'm going with this. It was him realizing what Santora's actual intentions were, so that made him realize that his cause might not have been worth it, and what he went through to accomplish it might not have been, that he might not have basically sorry, I can
still some interesting ways to interpret that. Like, on the base level, this person is not who I remember them being, and that's upsetting, isn't necessarily the most noble reaction in the world. But the context surrounding it does different. And I wonder if there's more that we'll be able to dive into as the season proceeds.
I'm certain we'll get that. I'm beyond just the rest of these first 11 episodes. I'm almost certain that we're going to touch upon how Tarek is still coping with his actions and what to do next.
I guess that's my thoughts of this episode right there. Yeah, enjoyed the episode. It was a lot of fun. Now, let's move on.
Hold on, I just remembered. This is a really minor point, and is maybe the only thing I wasn't 100% on board for in the episode. But there are 6 Rangers, right? You feel like one of them should have thought to use a long range attack on the force field before Void Knight showed up, right?
Yeah, right.
I guess not a deal breaker. I'm willing to roll with it because I like the rest of the episode so well. But come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, lapses in logic are to be there's yeah.
Yeah,
I mean this.
I know.
Yeah, that's just kind of to be expected at this point. Even the best seasons have lapses in logic or moments that make you go, "Wait, what? Why'd they do that?"
Uh-huh. And yeah, I'm a dated adult. I know.
All right.
Continue,
Yeah.
Doc.
All right. Let's move on about this. The first quarter 2022 financial results. Let me show the screen here.
I got it pulled up.
Just in case you. Oh, you got it pulled up?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, bear with me for 1 second as I try to get my thing prepped so that I can share my screen. This will only take a minute, hopefully. Okay, here we are. So on April 19th, Hasbro hosted its a quarter earnings call, which is basically where. All right. So for those of you who aren't steeped into like into business, at the end of every quarter, businesses have investor calls where they go over where they basically go over where their business was at the start of the year, where it is now, what strategies are working, what strategies aren't working, the results of basically where they go over their game plan. And while there wasn't any major, I guess, news regarding like the show or any kind of merchandise, it is a lot of the information is pretty telling. So here, entertainment segments. Revenue increased 4%. Revenue increased 5%, excluding a negative 10 impact of foreign exchange. Okay. Entertainment segment revenue grew 22%, excluding $31.8 million from the music business. Yada yada, Boston Skippy. Film and TV revenues increasing 14%. Basically, lots of business talk and whatnot. But I guess the main takeaway is, or the biggest takeaway is this part. Family Brands revenue were up 23%, driven by a multi-title renewal with Netflix for My Little Pony, Transformers, and Power Rangers franchises. Going deeper into that, Power Rangers, in the part where they specifically discuss Power Rangers, it says revenue is up from the first quarter. The first 11 episodes of season 2 of the Power Rangers Dino Fury live-action TV series premiered in select markets around the world. The show ranked among the top 10 most watched kids shows on Netflix in all the markets it launched in, and in the US, maintained its position for 2 consecutive weeks post-launch. Compelling new content supported with new kid fan-focused product.
Now, I admit there's a lot I'm not really familiar with in the business world, but the way streaming nowadays tends to be about getting you to, keep watching the new thing. I feel like it maintaining a spot at the top for 2 weeks is at least somewhat noteworthy.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Now,
although, yeah. So there's kind of a fair bit to actually. I know a lot of it's amongst all the business jargon. There actually is a decent amount to discuss here. So I guess we'll start with the basic part. Revenue in the brand has increased from the last quarter, which is always usually a good sign which is always a good sign. So that's at least encouraging. Whether or not that continues in the second quarter, or how much it goes up or down is still kind of up in the air. But for now, there is an increased interest in the brand since it has, and there is an increased interest in the brand in part following the move to Netflix. So that bodes well. Now,
earlier it said there was like a 23% increase from Power between Power Rangers, MLP, and Transformers.
yes.
And while I haven't exactly been keeping up with it, I do know that the MLP Generation 5 series starts later this year. So
Yes, yes.
there's
It
something
starts
like
on
with Transformers.
yes. So for those not in the know, there is a new My Little Pony series debut on Netflix in late May. So I guess that kind of tells us that that moving forward they're basically putting all their big franchises on Netflix, and they're going to try to space it out. So at one point of the year, they're going to release new Power Rangers content, and then new My Little Pony content, and then back and forth, and so on and so forth. And I think that's smart. Like in the wake of not having their own like Nick, I think it makes sense from a business perspective having all their big properties in one place. Although I think there's a Transformers series debuting. It's funny. At the same time Power Rangers is leaving Nickelodeon, there is a new Transformers show that's going to be debuting on Nickelodeon in the fall. But for the most part, go figure. But for the most part, they're basically going to have all of their brands in one place and alternating between which one has new content. That does make sense.
It means there's not really going to be a lull period where people aren't thinking about their IPs, and that there'll always be something new on the horizon.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess I have my thoughts on it. I got some thoughts on this. As y'all said, they put Netflix's on streaming franchises on streaming services like Netflix. Now, here's why. Technology is changing, and TV it's on the way out, and that it's being replaced by the internet. And back around the early 1990s and early 2000s and early to mid 2000s, we always loved TV. And this was at a time where social media wasn't even a thing. And we always loved cartoons and Power Rangers at that time. And it shows like in animated shows like Avatar and Avatar: The Last Airbender and Fairy Godparents. They're all on Netflix now. But back then it was a lot of fun. It still is. It's just a matter of where you watch it, when you watch it, and how you watch it. Because 2000s were a weird time. That was around the 2010s. We started now to watch all of our favorite shows from late 90s to early to mid 2000s on Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and they're all on there now because TV's on its way out. It's simple as that.
In a way, in a way, it's kind of on its way out. I think TV is always going to continue being a thing. It's just going to take on different forms and whatnot. Although, it is kind of interesting watching it's funny, the history of Power Rangers itself kind of, I want to say, excuse me, I've always kind of believed that, I've always kind of believed that media, that media itself kind of says a lot about the time in which it was made. So even though not all, I forget the quote, but I forget who say it, but in some ways, all art is either cultural or political. There's a point with this. Bear with me for a second.
Yeah.
But like in the same way that like what I'm getting at is that the history of Power Rangers and like where it has aired, the time in which it has aired tells us a lot about how much the landscape for television itself has changed. So like before, like you were saying, like Dante was saying, in the 90s and 2000s, you could all Power Rangers more like it had a reliable spot or home, for lack of a better term, on like on blocks like ABC, like
ABC
Fox
Kids.
Kids,
And
Fox
Fox
Kids.
Kids.
if I may cut in for a moment, I just
Go ahead.
wanted to from when I was around when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers hit the scene, and it managed to become one of the biggest kids shows in the world, despite the fact that I could only watch it on the local channels. I couldn't get it on the Prime Star we had. Yeah, we had Prime Star back then. That was a thing.
Right.
I did not know that was a thing.
And despite being local, it was still big. And I think that tells us a certain amount of what WR was saying, what the landscape of television was like at the time.
Oh yeah. Like even like it, and even though it never really fully reached the heights of popularity that it did when it was under like it's always for the longest time it always kind of felt like those I guess television blocks were always going to be a thing, like whether it was like on Fox Kids or then when it moved to ABC Family and ABC Kids, and now like it's like and now but like that's those blocks like kids though ABC Kids, Kids WB, that's
Not
like
a thing.
no, it's not a thing anymore. The net like the landscape for television, especially television television for younger audiences has changed drastically. The kind of blocks in which Power Rangers used to thrive and could call home, those were long gone, which in part kind of explains why. I mean, look, say what we Nickelodeon, for better or for worse, was basically the only place that the franchise could go for a while. Could go because Disney wanted nothing to do with it. Cartoon Network would have basically. I mean, I'm pretty sure Cartoon Net, even if they weren't kind of skittish about touching live action again after the failure of the CN Real block, like
Right.
even if they. Assuming even if they tried to put it to Cartoon Network, they were like, no, we don't want this. We tried live action. We tried, no, we good. You keep that. No. But yeah, it kind of felt, even though Nickelodeon was more or less the only place that Power Rangers could go, it really it still was not a good place for the show to be. But now I feel like this is Netflix was. I feel like Netflix is now basically the streaming is now more or less the only place in which I feel Power Rangers can not only continue but can actually, I guess, kind of can thrive, because as you said, cable is cable is, I don't want to say dying, but it's not long for this world. Or at the very least, it's going to be different in the wake of streaming becoming more of a thing now. Now that Netflix is not just the only game in town, there's Disney Plus, there's Apple TV, there's HBO Max, Amazon Prime, and so on and so forth. So,
and I can contribute to that.
Right. So this, so the fact, okay. Granted, the one downside with all of these streaming networks is that these metrics are just basically an honor system. There's not like a streaming equivalent of the Nielsen Nielsen system, which tracked and reported ratings on television networks. that's not really a thing here, or at least that's not that such a thing doesn't really exist with streaming services. So we don't have any. So while we don't have anything to, basically we just got to take their word for it when they're talking about how it's basically how it spent like 2 weeks in the top 10 most watched kids shows on Netflix. We more or less just got to take their word for it. But
that's less than encouraging, if I'm being completely honest.
oh yeah, no, Netflix is kind of. I mean,
Now,
all the streaming. I mean, all metrics released by streaming services are kind of nebulous at best. But Netflix especially is selective about the numbers they put out and release. Still though, for better or still though, this is encouraging, and I think kind of I guess I want to say kind of disputes a lot of the I guess kind of alleviates any fears about how what's the word? Oh, that's the word. Oh, that's right. I guess it kind of refutes all the people going like Hasbro's trying to kill the brand. Well, no,
Has that been a thing? I don't keep up with.
Hasbro is not trying to kill the brand; it's trying to strive it a bit.
No,
You know,
well, yeah. No, I mean,
I don't think Hasbro's inclined to treat their property the same way Disney is sometimes known to do. Although,
Right.
admittedly, that is just a guess on my part. I could be way off.
but
Right, like-
can I say something real quick before you keep on going?
Go
And
ahead.
Netflix is doing a good job at this, and it seems like other streaming services like Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max, Amazon Prime are pushing themselves to do the same as well. But if like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and Disney Channel don't get like their act together, as I may say here, add more variety to the networks, then Netflix will just basically mow them down.
I wanna maybe counter that a bit. There is because it's not. I mean, just look. Let's just use this Disney Channel for an example. We have horror comedy with the Owl House, high fantasy comedy with Amphibia. They have supernatural shows with the Ghost and Molly McGee. There's there's that upcoming Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur show, which is going to debut sometime in summer. So there's superhero stuff.
I keep seeing commercials for something called Ghost Force.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's a cartoon released by produced by the same people behind Miraculous Ladybug. Same studio, same studio, same writers. I think that's just something that Disney has the rights to license, like in the same way that they have the license to air Miraculous Ladybug.
All right.
But if I could maybe going back to what I said a bit further, I forget where I left off. So I talked about how basically something along the lines of how this oh, okay, I remember now. So I think, like I said, it bodes well for the future of the series. Kind of goes counter to a lot of what people are saying about how Hasbro was actively trying to kill the brand. And I think, if for nothing else, I think this says that they are I guess not somewhere between I think as of now they're kind of somewhere between smothering the brand with nostalgia, like smothering the brand by overdoing with the nostalgia, like Saban did. They're not overdoing it, but it's somewhere between that and Disney's, I want to say, what started off as indifference or just basic tolerance of the franchise to actively trying to kill like they did later on.
Jeez. Like, what did they even want when they bought? Well, okay, I know what they wanted, but still, businesses. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what you gonna do? The funny thing is, I'm pretty sure like if there was a way for them to buy the Fox Kids channel, but only the shows that they wanted to air to air on the network when they rebranded it as ABC Family. Like
Oh
if there was if
yeah.
there because okay, for those of you who don't know, uh in 2001, Saban sold Fox Kids, the network that Power Rangers aired on. They sold it to the Walt Disney Company, meaning that they would inherit all of the shows on that channel, and where they rebranded it as ABC Family. Power Rangers was part of the package deal, so they unintentionally ended up getting the rights to Power Rangers. And initially they just wanted to air the first 10 seasons of the show on ABC Family, and then just gradually just kind of let this just and then gradually kind of I guess kind of push the show to the put shove the show aside, let it just fade out. It wasn't until they decided that they could basically what they changed their minds when they decided to move production of Power Rangers from Los Angeles to New Zealand, where they would because to save money. So that allowed them to not spend as much money on the show, and it allowed the franchise to carry on past Wild Force.
And if nothing else, I am grateful that for a few years there they did air that Power Rangers, which was just like various episodes from previous seasons. Because this was around the time I had finally gotten back into Power Rangers,
Right,
or
right,
and this was before the internet was as mainstream as it was. This was more
right.
or less the only way I was going to be able to catch up on anything that I'd missed.
Right. It was an if like it was a nifty idea. Like they still aired reruns of older seasons on ABC Family, all on ABC Family. Now, okay, quick aside. I think they they moved Wild Force to ABC halfway in its run. But like starting with that, they aired old episodes of the TV show and still had newer episodes on ABC Family, on ABC Kids, on Jetix, on Two Disney, stuff like that. Like for that brief period, it did seem like they were willing to give it a go and kind of on board with and kind of I guess on board with helping the brand grow. Now I am hoping like I'm pretty sure I'm now. I don't know what the higher ups at Hasbro are thinking, but I gotta imagine that they are trying to do something that's kind of where they would like the franchise to be, like in that like all the seasons in one place, so that people who want to catch up or see other seasons can access them, but they can still have new content available in the I guess in the waiting in the wings.
Although I suppose that does raise a question, and I suppose we are going to have to move on to the third point about Netflix eventually. But
We
Yeah.
can
the
touch on
que-
we can touch on it briefly since
yeah,
it's only tangentially related.
the question
Mhm.
is, why then did they remove all the Power Ranger seasons from
I
Netflix?
was I was gonna say that was
Like
baffling.
I'm glad they're adding them for free up on YouTube. That's awfully nice of them.
Yeah,
I
I think Friday they're going to start. I think starting with Friday they're going to get to Time Force.
get it is all.
Yeah, it's weird. Like why remove most of the seasons, but not all of them, and while like the first three seasons of the show are still on Netflix, but everything from Zeo to Dino Supercharge is gone.
Wait, do
Meanwhile,
they even have the 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin? Because
I
I
think
seem to remember checking once and them only having the first season. Could be remembering that wrong.
I don't know. Do they? Wait a minute. God.
But the only way, And again, I'm having to make some assumptions about how any of this works. So, fair warning, this is speculation. The way I can figure it is that maybe these other seasons weren't
Okay,
getting
yeah.
enough viewership through Netflix to be worth paying to have them up. And they figured they're better off being on YouTube where they can get ad revenue off them for the people who do want to watch them.
That's what I suspect as well. And yeah, I checked. They have the first 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin, and the 2010 remaster. Oddly enough,
Maybe that one's just a freebie. I don't know how these things work.
but I suspect it's something along those lines. Why, instead of constantly having to pay licensing fees, why not instead of having to pay a third party, why not just, since you own it, why not just post the episodes, just post them on YouTube for free? Which I guess makes sense in a way.
Like, the long and short of it is, for some reason Hasbro believes that they will make more money off of it this way. Whether or not they're right is a different question, but they believe that.
Yeah, more or less.
Because if they just hated the seasons and didn't want anything to do with them, they wouldn't bother posting them on YouTube.
Right. And clearly they have at least some interest in the brand, since they would, I don't think you spend over half $500 million if you're not interested in the property in some way, shape, or form.
And like, from what I've seen of Dino Charge, Dino Fury. Yeah, sorry everyone, there's way dinosaur seasons.
I know.
It
gets hard to make.
But Dino Fury doesn't feel like a show that's being half-hearted, you know?
Oh no.
Also, it's keeping up the tradition of the dinosaur-themed seasons being generally good.
Yes.
Look, I wasn't 100% in love with Dino Charge, but it was easily my favorite season from the Neo Saban era. There were that killed it for me, you know? I meant that in a good way.
Right. Honestly, yeah. I guess that's usually dinosaurs tend to be this franchise good luck charm. Like, there has so far, at least.
Here's hoping they can keep that up, because it's only going to be a matter of time before they come back for round 5.
I mean, yeah. Although, yeah, that at some point the Super Sentai is going to revisit the dinosaur well again. They can't. It won't be the first time, won't be the last. In fact, it won't even be the first time they've reused a motif when it comes to dinosaurs. Both Power Rangers and Super Sentai have reused the animal theme with, like, Wild Force and Jungle Fury, Gao Ranger, Gekka Ranger,
Lost Galaxy.
Lost Galaxy to a lesser extent. Although,
I mean, that's what the Zord theme was about. But then they would space, which
they reused the space. No.
Because I could talk about that all day. So let's.
Sure. Like, they reused, like, Lost Galaxy was like a twofer. It was yet another season in space, and also kind of, actually, wouldn't this technically be, in a way, Lost Galaxy was technically like the first animal focused or themed Power Rangers season? In a way.
I mean, the closest one we've had before that would have been the Ninja Zords from 3rd season of MMPR, but even that's kind of questionable.
Yeah. Although, right, and I guess technically that's also another twofer, since it's the first ninja themed season.
Ninjas.
Yes.
Because nothing says stealth quite like red, yellow, and blue spandex.
Of course. You want your enemies to know you're coming. I'm pretty sure that's Moon. That's Moon Knight's whole motif and why he wears white. He wants people to know that he's coming.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes. And you actually, no. That's kind of, actually think if that's it, which in a way is more terrifying if you think about it. It's best. Like I'm not just talking about Moon Knight. Like I'm just talking about like imagine you're like some low life thug or bandit living in Angel Grove or whatever city in whatever season. Like imagine how kind of low key terrifying that is to see this group of people with these strange powers and these weird weapons, like in bright yellow spandex, coming at you. That's kind of terrifying if you think about it.
Yeah, I would not be up for committing low-level crime in Angel Grove. I'm just saying.
Well, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that there's an episode in. Actually, why would any? It always. This is a bit of a tangent, but it always kind of makes me chuckle whenever we see like a low life or small time crook in any episode of any season of Power Rangers. It's like do you know where you live? Like, do you like? I think
if there's a logic to it at all, it's probably that they're hoping that they're too small time and that they'll fly under the radar like that.
Right.
You know, purse snatchers aren't exactly on the same level as a monster blowing up a building.
Right. Although, I think there's an episode of Ninja Storm. I think the episode Tongue in Cheek, where these thugs are trying to rob the surf shop, and then they just so happen to run into Dustin.
And he morphs like, hey, knock that off.
Something you don't see more. That's something you don't.
I like Ninja Storm.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm not going to go on about it because we don't have time, but that was the season that legitimately got me back into Power Rangers after years of not caring.
Honestly, there's no time limit on this thing. I mean, barring some of us having to step out or leave, we can just go on the ramble as long as we like. And since we're on that topic, I do kind of. Okay, for preference, Power Rangers Ninja Storm was the very first season of the show I followed as a kid, and it has always kind of been my personal favorite. But in a lot of ways, it kind of functions as like a reboot of sorts for the series, like soft reboot, this was the first season under new leadership, first official season fully under new leadership. First season in which there wasn't initially a team of 5 Rangers. First time there was only one female in the group, one female Ranger on the team, and I think I don't want to say it broke a lot of tradition, a lot of the show's traditions, like not having a crossover. Although that was more due to union reasons. And
actually, if I may, though, again, as interested as I am in talking about Ninja Storm, look, I know there's not a time limit, but there's only so much stamina to go around.
Right.
Why don't we save the Ninja Storm discussion as a dedicated topic for next episode? Is that okay, Dante?
Maybe next year. Well, maybe next year. Whenever the next.
I meant just next week, but if we want to save it for a special occasion, that's fine.
Actually, why not? Why? God, Jesus.
Is anything else interesting happening between now and next week that we need to talk about?
There are a few more things actually.
Okay.
So I guess we could briefly maybe touch on the Netflix thing insofar as out their base in the in the instance in which okay, I'm trying to figure out a clever segue, but I'm just gonna go right to it. So basically, they've been in the news. Netflix has been in the news regarding how their stock is kind of more or less plummeted after I guess after they've reported their first subscriber loss in ever, and they're reporting that their second quarter probably won't be much better. This led to investors in stock and stock. This led to investors and stock and shareholders freaking out. And then I guess adding on top of that was the news that Netflix Animation was shutting down their animation division, which among the many projects that got canceled was an animated series, an animated adaptation of Jeff Smith's graphic novel Bone. So,
which I'm not familiar with, but I kind of gather people were looking forward to that.
Yeah, funny story. So, like, Bone has kind of is developing a reputation of kind of being a cursed production, because this is the second or third time an adaptation or a show based around Bone has just fallen through the cracks. Warner Brothers, Jeff Smith, the author of the books, tried to arrange a deal with Warner Brothers, and then that fell through. And then I think it was either Disney or Fox, but that one also fell through. And then I think, basically, this isn't the first time they tried making a Bone cartoon, and not the first time in which it never went anywhere. But
so obviously the solution is next time they try it, they need to start every workday by saying Macbeth as often as possible.
Yes. Yes. But I bring this up because basically it signals that Netflix is more or less prioritized, like anything that isn't like a big IP or brand, they're either going to be a lot more skittish about it in the future, or they're just going to scrap it altogether. Now, let me just clarify that Netflix is not exactly they're not on their last legs. It's not like they're gonna shut down or go bankrupt. The market is still unstable. They still have over 200 million subscribers. It's not like this isn't so.
It
Nobody
could go poorly for them, but there's also a chance that they could recover from this.
Yeah, and they more than likely will, or at the very least, we're not at the sound the alarm. They're shutting down. Like we're not at the phase where we should be panicking or shutting or sounding the alarm just yet.
And the question of what any of this means for Power Rangers, I mean, as far as I can figure, without any kind of inside information to work on, there's basically three possible outcomes. The first is that they just stick with Netflix and keep putting Power Rangers on Netflix. And at the moment, like you said, Netflix isn't dying. That's probably going to be what they're going to do for the time being, unless things get worse.
Yes.
The other two options are either they jump ship to a different streaming, or they start their own. And I kind of hope they don't start their own, because there's already more that I'm happy about, but that's a different conversation.
Right. And your third? What's your third outcome?
That was the third, them starting their own.
All right. Okay. So I believe they have, similar with Nickelodeon, Hasbro has a contract to host, they have a contract with Netflix that says that that's going to be the go-to platform for Power Rangers for the foreseeable future. Now, the contract could change. The contract could change. The market could become more unstable. Things could get worse. But baseline assume that they are likely going to renew the contract. They are going to renew the contract they have with Netflix. At the moment,
right.
because at the moment, it's kind of their best. Not their only, but currently their best option. Mm-hmm. And I say not their only because let's say the worst happens Netflix isn't going to do it anymore. I say maybe move it. Netflix isn't doing it anymore. We already saw what happened with we already saw what there have already been casualties in the stream in the whole streaming service. It takes a so say they don't start their streaming service, which I don't think they will, and don't hope they don't and personally don't hope they do, because man, I like, because man, that's my bills are already stretched thin as is. But let's say they don't, they could probably just move it to something like Amazon Prime, which in a way which I won't say is better than, but it's a better option than Netflix, but certainly has its own set of advantages, because Power Rangers, what is Power Rangers is not if not basically a toy commercial, and Amazon, which I mean, like, it just a little synergy, like they could.
There's a logic to that.
Right. Actually, like I thought about it, it kind of occurred to me that's when I made the connection. Hey, wait, like imagine it for a second. Like they're going to so there's that, and the fact that, okay, as much as I like having all of the episodes of all like 11 episodes to go, I'm sorry, apologies if you haven't noticed over the last 14 or so weeks, I tend to stutter when I get nervous or excited about something. So
no, I had noticed.
No, you'll notice it in the playback.
I'm sorry. Too easy had to do it.
Right.
But please continue.
So, as it's nice to have that we have the first 11 episodes of any given season, if assuming that they're going to do that moving forward, that is nice. But I've personally just always preferred weekly television, like watching episodes week to week. I just personally just find it more convenient to just invest 30 or 60 minutes of my day instead of investing a whole 8 hours or so. And I believe that
it's also kind of nice to have that extra time to sink in and
not
lost in the shuffle.
Right. And Power Rangers, and adding on to that, Power Rangers is, I guess, a kind of show that, I mean, it is bingeable, but I think works a little bit better when it's week-to-week episodes. Because
it does start to wear on you when you binge it.
It does.
And I remember, because my best friend and I started binging Mighty Morphin in 2011. We finally finished Time Force recently. Things happen, but yeah, after a while, it does start to get a little old, even with the better seasons.
Right, and I bring that up because Amazon is doing this. Amazon Prime is doing this. Has been doing this thing where they're, I guess, they've basically been releasing. They basically have been doing what I think most of these services should be doing, and most of them have been releasing episodes in chunks from week to week. So, like, let's say Power Rangers somehow winds up on Amazon Prime, there is a chance that they might release the show like in small chunks here and there, which I just think is a happy medium. Like, it's nice to have more than one episode a week, but not too much where you risk the viewers becoming burnt out. And again, I feel like I should reiterate that no, Power Rangers is not moving to Amazon Prime. This is all just purely theoretical. Now, if word comes out that it is, we can claim to be the first. We can basically claim to have inside information, or say that we were one of the first to predict the move.
You heard it here, folks. Give us money.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, I think I think I have one more topic to show y'all before we
I'm going to
close it.
step out for just a moment. Apologies, a small issue. I will be right back.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
That's fine.
All right. Well, I have one more topic before we end this show. That's wow. We can make a preview of the Power Rangers Universe issue number 5. Let me share my screen. Come on, my screen. Even go. Now, woo, let's go. Woo, let's go. Wait, make sure y'all can see my screen. There we go. There we go. Oh, where's the end? Okay. So Power Rangers Universe issue 5 hits comic book shops this Wednesday, and you can check out the official preview of the issue here. So, on the Master Forge, the Morphin Master and the Morphinaut feel the aftershock of the smoking crater on Earth's surface. After the mysterious crash site, the new powers and skill sets are put to the test against a horde of foot soldiers. But what happens when their powers start to fail and even begin to turn against them? So, Power Rangers Universe issue 5 goes on sale on April 27th. So, what you think?
Interesting. I think the read up mentioned like the Morphin Masters.
Morphin Master Teens.
Oh, Morphin Master Teens. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, still, that's certainly interesting.
Yeah. All right. Yes, true. But would you probably get it?
Yeah, I'll probably check. I'll probably check out the issue eventually.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that should conclude. Is that? Oh, Dragon Raider's back.
Hi.
Oh, you missed it. Here you missed it.
Man.
We were talking about this. Let me show it to you just in case.
Sorry, audience. Things happened.
Yeah, it's all right. This is we were previewing this Power Rangers Universe issue 5.
So I'm not up on
So you can check
this
that out.
Power Rangers. Okay, that's a ninja-looking thing, maybe. Oh, or is that the Phantom Ranger?
Might be. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it right here. And I'll read the description right
the
here.
white vest,
On the Master
they
Forge,
almost
the
look
Morphin.
Wait, are those? That kind of looks like the Die Ranger suit, doesn't it?
I think it is. I think those are the Die Ranger suits.
Let's see. Yeah, it is the Die Rangers. Yes.
Except with the black one also. But okay, cool.
Yeah. Let me read the description here. On the Master Forge, the Morphin Master Teens in the Morphinaut feel the aftershock of the smoking crater on Earth's surface. At the mysterious crash site, the new powers and skill sets are put to the test against a horde of foot soldiers. But what happens when their powers start to fail and even begin to turn against them? Power Rangers Universe issue 5 goes on sale on April 27th.
New powers, huh?
But what do you think, Dragon Raider? Yeah.
To be honest, I've never heard of this comic prior to today, but it looks neat. I'm sorry, I don't have.
I guess that's gonna conclude.
You guys talked about Power Rangers Turbo last week, didn't you?
We touched upon it briefly, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I was gonna use the ending as an excuse to add my thoughts.
Sure.
But I'll keep
Yeah,
it
go
brief.
ahead.
The long and short of Power Rangers Turbo and why I think I have a hard time meshing with it is there's a feeling of uncertainty. It's a series that where almost everything is changing, but also they try their hardest to act like everything's the same as it's always been. And that's just way too jarring for me.
Yeah.
And that's not to say there weren't good elements.
Oh no, of course not.
To be honest, things did start to improve after they swapped out the Rangers for the new guys.
Right. Like I feel right. Um, I like. I think the first Hyper Turbo, you could definitely tell that I guess felt the first Hyper Turbo felt what's the word, just felt very going through the roads and going through the motions, like you like it was evident at that point that the writers and the cast were just starting to feel a little burnt out by doing the same by having done the same thing a for 5 years in a row now. And it especially felt meandering after the I guess conclusive ending of Zio. But the biggest problem is that like you said, it's a season that wants to be about like moving forward and changes, and yet there isn't a whole there aren't a lot of decisions that actually kind of there aren't a lot of decisions within that season that kind of reflect that change. For the first half, it just kind of feels like business as per usual, but it did get better in the second half once we're introduced to the new team. Even though the way in which they passed the torch was, I guess, questionable.
Questionable, but to be honest, by that point, I did enjoy the two-parter passing the torch. But in honesty, a lot of that was just the first 10, 12, 13 episodes of Turbo was such a drag that I latched on to anything good it was giving me.
Right.
And on that note, there actually is one episode from the first stretch of Turbo that I do honestly like, and I'd like to talk about for a moment.
Chase, I have a fun.
Go
I
ahead.
have a guess, but what is it?
It is the episode Cars Attacks. Cars Attack, whatever you call it.
Oh.
And admittedly, I don't actually remember the main thrust of the episode. I also don't care. It's Power Rangers. You can guess what it was. But the subplot was about this new girl in town that Catherine was trying to be friends with, but, the girl's just kind of copping an attitude and being unpleasant to all Kat's attempts. And then later in the episode, when they're having the conclusion, and the girl says something like, "Oh, I guess this is the part where we all make up and be friends." And I'm like, "Oh, she's seen this show before." But then Catherine goes, "Right now, I don't even know that I want to be your friend." And that legitimately caught me off guard. Because it's not, even before Turbo, that wouldn't have been something I expected from Zordon era Power Rangers. Basically saying, "Look, I understand you're having a hard time right now. I sympathize, but you're being a major jerk to everyone around you, and all you're going to do is alienate people. I can't. It sucks what you're going through, but you kind of got to deal with it." And yeah, going to rewatch an episode of Turbo. That would be pretty high up on the list.
Honestly, after Samurai and Super Mega Force, I would gladly watch any episode of Turbo, even the ones prior to the power transfer. I'm not even saying that to be ironic. I genuinely mean that.
I'm not 100% sure I'm on board for that, because Turbo did eventually reach the point where we had to skip a few episodes to the end.
It did.
The problem was, for a few episodes in the middle there, when General Havoc showed up,
he should have been the main baddie.
The season went from good by Turbo standards to just playing good for a few episodes there.
Yeah.
And then when things started going back to their normal thrust after that, it became a major slog, and we ended up having to skip 6 episodes for our own sanity.
Right.
But
Right.
as many issues as I have with Megaforce and also Samurai to a degree, there are things I like about them. There are things I enjoy. And heck, if I'm being honest, a lot of Megaforce's problems do exist on a macro level, and there's a perfectly serviceable, if not decent, episodes.
Like, yeah. There's no the thing with Megaforce is that there's no one big thing that ruins the whole thing. Okay, well, although I mean, you could argue that to us, I mean, you could argue that the writing is what did it in, but I would argue that like it's little things. It's the well, not little things, but it's a series of things. It's the direction, it's the writing, the conflict behind the scenes, the fact that most of the season was produced in crunch time, the questionable at best creative decisions made by Jonathan Zacher, it was things here and there that added up and resulted in a season it was little things that added up and just led to a mess.
And if I can step in for just a second, since you brought up Jonathan Zacher, I know his name's been tossed around a decent bit in recent years, and not exactly in the most positive light in regards to Power Rangers. And I just want to take the time to say to anyone listening, been, I guess, mad at the guy, it's maybe a bit much. Like, his worst crime, if he's committed a crime, was making a season of television that we didn't particularly like. And that's not really worth ragging on someone for, you know?
Right. You got to separate the art. You got to separate the art.
Like you can, like you can on Megaforce as little or as much as you personally want to, but don't be a jerk to the people who acted in it or made it, because I'm pretty sure a lot of them did the best they could, and almost no one makes a bad show on purpose.
Yeah, nobody sets out to like make something bad or disappointing on purpose. In the same way, we might not have actually liked certain choices on certain episodes or certain TV shows, but I mean, by all means, he seems like a stand-up guy. I guess just worth keeping in worth keeping in perspective.
And again, I hope no one to this podcast is the kind of person who needs to be told that. But if you are, I mean, we like you anyway. Just maybe keep that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. Anything more to add before we end this episode here?
I think I'm good this time.
You good this time? Thank God. JWR?
Sorry, man.
Still hope. I don't know. I would say I'm always hoping for some kind of maybe significant news, because like these last few months have been basically like been no way. I think it was a Ranger Command Center podcast who said these last few months have been like being in a desert. It's like, I need some Power Rangers. It's like so that always hoping that we get at least something significant every week. Still hoping. Yeah, I got nothing to add, but add beyond that.
Okay, good. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this episode. For this episode of the Power Ranger Podcast. If you like this episode, please give it a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video or when I go live. Also, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, Dragon Raider X9, for coming out.
My pleasure.
And thank you, JWR, as always.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure indeed. Wow, this episode I think we went a little longer than usual.
And this might be our longest episode to date.
Yes.
And this is on a day without any kind of heaviness, without any kind of without any kind of heavy news stories.
Yeah.
Interesting insight or incompetent ramblings? You be the judge.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Why not both?
There you go. Well, until we all see you again next time, may the power protect
Protect
you.
you always.
Always.
Okay, we got
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, we gotta work on that. But yeah, good night, everybody.
Night
Good night,
night.
everybody.